Edgar Cayce, a modern-day prophet, as he's called, his 14,000 psychic readings are all preserved. He is the most documented psychic of all time, and Christian County, Kentucky's most famous native son, known as the Sleeping Prophet. Edgar Cayce could treat illnesses, predict the future often accurately, according to Cayce scholars. The election predictions that have surfaced in 2024 are not the only things everyone has been talking about. The recent total solar eclipse was an amazing sight, with Americans appreciating the wonders of nature. But right after it happened, something dawned on them. They realized the eclipse is literally one of the signs the world is coming to an end. To make matters worse, the 2014 predictions made by Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet, about the major changes the world will have are beginning to manifest. What are these shocking predictions? And why are people terrified of them? Brace yourself as we reveal it all to you, because we just might be in the final days, weeks, or months of existence. Because of Edgar Cayce's 2024 prediction, Americans look up at the sky, waiting for the moment when darkness covers the sun. Not long ago, Americans saw something amazing, a solar eclipse in North America. Billions of people in North America are gearing up for a total solar eclipse today, the path of totality. That's the area that will be plunged into darkness. It made people excited but at the same time confused, because comparing it with the events leading up to the end times, it was a sign that something was coming, something big. On April 8th, in some parts of North America, the sky got dark for a little while. This happened because the moon covered the sun completely during a total solar eclipse. When we look at this event scientifically, we know that as the moon moves closer to the sun, light will start to shine through the valleys, mountains, craters, and rough parts on the moon's edge. This makes small drops of light at the very edge of the moon's shape, and these are called Bailey's beads. They are named after an English astronomer, Francis Baily, who talked about them in 1836. But what's interesting about this is that Baily might not have been the first person to see them. Edmund Halley saw them first during a solar eclipse on May 3, 1715, and he also explained why they happened. During the next total solar eclipse, the last sunlight will shine through the rough parts on the moon's edge. Sky watchers might see something really special, a rare double diamond ring. This happens when two bright points of sunlight appear at the edge of the moon. Seeing a total solar eclipse is not something that happens often. The last one in North America was 7 years ago, and since the United States was formed in 1776, there have only been 8 total solar eclipses. The next one won't happen until 2044. Will we still be here to see it, or will something tragic happen before then? Some people think that when there's an eclipse, it's a good time for Americans to think about what's happening in the country. They especially think about social issues. Some people believe that America is not following the Word of God and has made laws that go against it. Others think that what's happening now is just like what the Bible said would happen. There would be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and people would be upset and confused. We really believe it will be a special moment, unlike the total solar eclipse in 2017. In this one, 3 things from the sky will be involved: the sun, the moon, and a comet known as the Devil Comet. Maybe this event will make something that Jesus talked about in Luke 21 come true. Some recent news reminds us of things that were written in the book of Revelation a long time ago. Many people think the signs that the world will end are happening faster and faster. They think that something called the Great Reset could make the whole world's economy crash and change everything. The term Great Reset was first used by Klaus Schwab, who started the World Economic Forum in 2020. They made a plan to help the world get better after the COVID-19 sickness. But some people think they have a bigger plan to make one unitary world government. This idea connects with what's written in the Bible in a part called Revelation chapter 13. It talks about a time when there will be a world leader who lies to everyone, called the Antichrist, and another person who helps him. They will control everything, like food, water, and medicine. We think this Great Reset is getting everything ready for that time before it actually happens. An expert says that rich and powerful people worldwide are using climate change to make everyone come together and create one world. They call this the Great Reset. They want to unite the world by making us all do things like recycling, using electric cars, and living in smaller homes. They even talk about eating bugs instead of meat to make less pollution. This expert thinks that this idea has become like a new religion, replacing God with a world leader. They wonder if maybe God is trying to talk to us through serious events happening all over the world and the things we see in the sky. Many people who don't usually think about the end of the world are interested in the total solar eclipse happening on April 8th. They want to know if it means something special or if it's just another cool thing in the sky. We need to tell people that we might be getting closer to the end of the world, but we can't say exactly when it will happen. We can only look for signs that it might be coming. If the total solar eclipse on April 8th happens without anything scary happening, don't get too excited or too worried. It might just be the start of something. One thing is sure, God will never tell you the exact day He's coming, or exactly what signs will happen before the world ends. He just gave us some clues. So on April 8th, when the sun got covered by darkness, it was probably just the start of what would happen next. Besides the sun getting dark, what else do we know? Let's see if Edgar Cayce's predictions can help us understand more about what might happen. Who is Edgar Cayce and what was he known for? Edgar Cayce was known as America's sleeping prophet. During his life, he gave more than 14,000 readings to many different people, even famous ones like Thomas Edison and Marilyn Monroe. He predicted many things from the rediscovery of Atlantis to the start of World War II. But he got his nickname, the Sleeping Prophet, because people said he could fall asleep and still remember everything he read in books. Later, he used this skill to diagnose illnesses and suggest treatments while he was in a sleep-like state. Edgar Cayce had some interesting predictions for 2024, which might actually come true. While some people don't believe in his predictions, others say that some of the things he said in the past came true. The future is hard to know for sure, but Edgar's ideas about 2024 make us think about what might happen in just a few years. In all of history, there's no prediction as important as when Jesus Christ will come back to our world. Even though it's been 2,000 years since he was last here, people still wait and hope for his second coming. Many dates and times have been suggested for when Jesus will come back, including during the total solar eclipse on April 8th. But none of those dates have been right, and Jesus still hasn't come back. Honestly, this is just the beginning, and Edgar's predictions might tell us what happens next. Edgar talked a lot about Jesus' life, even the parts that the Bible doesn't mention, but he also talked about Jesus coming back. He said that the time for the Lord to come back is getting closer. This is something that the old prophets and wise people talked about too. Edgar believed that the signs showing that Jesus was coming back would happen before he actually came. The start of everything is a solar eclipse in America. So what happens next? Let's talk about the sleeping prophet and the moment his special talent is revealed. The sleeping prophet's special abilities started to show when he was young. One of the first things he did was talk to imaginary friends and even his dead grandfather. He said these were not real people, just spirits. He believed he could see right through them if he tried hard enough. When he was 12 years old in 1889, he told a story about a winged woman who came to him and said she would help him. With all these strange things happening, it's no surprise that Edgar had difficulty focusing on his schoolwork. One day, after he met the winged lady, his teacher told him he was not doing well in spelling. Edgar's father got upset and tested him on his spelling. But as he was about to give up, Edgar fell asleep. When he woke up, he remembered every word in the spelling book, even though it was under his head the whole time. His father couldn't believe it. Edgar did this again and again with other school books. By 1892, his teacher said he was the best student in the class. When she asked him how he got so good, he told her about sleeping on top of his books. Every time he did this, he woke up remembering everything in the books. And that was how the story of the sleeping prophet began. At first, he could remember everything in books even while asleep. But then, people found out he could do something even more incredible. He could tell people what was wrong with them and how to get better, all while he was asleep. It all began when he got hit in the spine during a school game. After that, he started acting strange. His parents put him to bed, and to their surprise, he started talking in his sleep. He told them what was wrong with him and how to fix it. They did what he said, and he got better. Newspapers started writing about him. They called him the illiterate man who becomes a doctor when hypnotized. They said he would remove his coat collar and tie before lying down. After that, he would close his eyes and start talking like he was in a dream. He would tell people what was wrong with them, how to fix it, and even what would happen in the future. During his life, Edgar Cayce helped more than 14,000 people with all kinds of problems. His biographer, Thomas Sugrue, said that many people in the United States believe his diagnoses were correct and his treatments worked. Edgar Cayce's extraordinary powers, a gift from God? I'm a great believer in fate. The Lord gives us talents. If they surface and we use them, and it kept coming back eating at him, that it was a gift God had given him and it was his responsibility to use. But some people aren't sure if these stories are enough to prove he really had special powers. Even though he lived a long time ago, his advice for staying healthy is still good today. He said people should sleep well, cook with olive oil, exercise, and drink lots of water. These are still important things for staying healthy. Now, how about we get into his predictions for 2024? What were his predictions that shocked the world? Edgar predicted that in 2024, there would be big changes in the world. He said the Earth's magnetic poles would move, causing confusion and problems for many years. This means that the North and South poles would change places, which would affect the weather all over the world. The Earth's magnetic north was moving even before it was discovered in 1831. It's a natural process driven by molten iron moving deep beneath the Earth's crust. He also said the Gulf Stream, a large ocean current, would change. This would make the ice at the North and South poles melt, making the sea levels rise. It would also change the weather all over the world. These changes could be some of the worst effects of climate change. That's why we must try to stop the Earth from getting too warm and prepare for these changes. Edgar also said that in 2024, America and other Western countries would not be the most powerful countries in the world anymore. He revealed that countries in the East, like Russia, China, India, or Israel, would become more powerful. But he didn't just talk about disastrous things happening. Edgar Cayce also said that in 2024, there would be a new time of peace and understanding in the world. He believed that people would become more spiritual and develop special powers, like seeing the future. Edgar predicted that around 2024, there would be big medical and scientific discoveries that would change the world. These discoveries would help people understand themselves and the world better. Many people think that our progress in things like artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, and quantum computing shows that something big will happen soon. Edgar Cayce believed that people would start to learn more about spiritual things and understand life better. Ideas like reincarnation, telepathy, the idea that we're all connected, and the idea that our souls are always growing would become more popular. Edgar had also said humanity would have to choose between being selfish or being more understanding and wise. The choices we make could affect the world for a long time. But Edgar also said that there might be some more scary things happening in the later months of 2024. He thought that aliens from another solar system might come to Earth. He said they would come from a place called the Aldebaran solar system, which is in the Taurus constellation. He warned that if people on Earth didn't become more spiritual, these aliens might be dangerous. Some people think that these aliens have been visiting Earth secretly for a long time, and now they want to show themselves to everyone. As a UFO crash landed on the Antarctic island of South Georgia. Photographs are really compelling because this is not somebody making believe something is there. You can actually see the skid marks. It actually looks as though an object is moving along that ice. Even if you don't believe in aliens, Edgar's warnings show that scary things might happen in the universe. And it's interesting that even Baba Vanga, a famous Bulgarian psychic, also said something shocking would happen in 2024. By the 1980s, Ben Jelji, who adopted the name Baba Vanga, had given thousands of accurate predictions. One of Edgar Cayce's scariest predictions was that in 2024, the Earth's magnetic poles would move. He said this would cause many problems all over the world. The weather would change a lot, and there would be more natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. He also thought some new lands would appear in the ocean, just like the mythical Atlantis. Some people think that this pole shift is already starting to happen. They say that because there are more life-threatening natural disasters and extreme weather events happening lately. Although most scientists say that while the magnetic poles do move over time, they happen very slowly. They don't think a huge shift like Edgar predicted will happen suddenly in 2024. But not all of Edgar's predictions were scary. Some of them actually came true. Which ones, you may ask? Well, you're about to find out. Besides his talent for talking in his sleep and making medical diagnoses, Edgar also made some interesting predictions. Some of them came true, while others are still open to interpretation. First, he said there would be a serious stock market crash in 1929. He talked about this twice, first in February 1925, and then again 6 months before it happened, in March 1929. Then, in 1935, he predicted how World War II would start. He said there would be an alliance between Germany, Austria, and Japan. This alliance actually happened in 1940 when they signed something called the Tripartite Pact. He also said that there would be explosive wars all over the world because of military groups. After that, he talked about some strange things too, like using blood to find out what's wrong with someone, finding something called the labia and El Nino effects, and all the leading communication companies working together. He also talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the people who wrote them, called the Essenes. Sadly, the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't found until 1947, 2 years after Edgar died. It took a long time before people started to learn more about the Essenes and the scrolls they wrote. The Dead Sea Scrolls are the most famous biblical texts ever found. They were discovered between 1946 and 1956 in 11 caves near the Dead Sea. Edgar also talked about the lost city of Atlantis. He said it would be found near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. In 1968, archaeologists found a rock formation under the water near the Bahamian island of North Bimini. It's about 18 feet below the surface. Some people think this might be the entrance to the underwater city, but some still argue about whether it's natural or artificial. Finding this formation makes people believe even more in Edgar Cayce's predictions. But there's more to Edgar Cayce's predictions. He said that if things stayed the same, his predictions would come true from the 1940s all the way to the 1980s and beyond. He believed that our spiritual efforts, like praying and meditating, could change what happens in the future. But even though we've changed some things, not everything has changed. Some of the things that would have caused those predicted events haven't been fixed. So even though we've tried to change things, some of the bad things he predicted might still happen. Edgar Cayce has also predicted that there would be a major earthquake in New York City. He said it would come from the fault lines under the city. But because people have been praying and meditating and doing other spiritual things for many years, the bad energy that would have caused this earthquake has become less. So instead of a physical earthquake, the bad energy showed up differently. It appeared like a bad dream or nightmare for the people of New York, the United States, and the world. Edgar Cayce saw this as an earthquake, but he looked at a timeline where people didn't become more spiritual. His predictions were based on what he saw then, with the idea that if things stayed the same, his predictions would come true. That means if people kept thinking and acting the same way, his predictions would happen. People have different thoughts about Edgar Cayce's predictions. Some believe in his special powers, and that his predictions were accurate. They are convinced he truly can see into the future and help people with his abilities. They trust his readings and believe in his insights. Others are more skeptical. They question whether Cayce's predictions were truly accurate, or if they were just lucky guesses. Some think that his readings were vague and open to interpretation, so they don't put much faith in them. They believe that there's no scientific evidence to prove his abilities. Edgar's predictions made it seem like he could see the path the world was on, and he saw the energy that was building up because of it. Ever since, people who believe in his gift of predictions have worked really hard to make the world better. They've prayed, meditated, and tried to become more careful in the dealings and intentional about doing right. Because of this, the bad energy that Edgar saw isn't as strong as it was before. It doesn't affect the world as much as it would have. This is because those who believed in him have brought more awareness and healing into the world. So now, Edgar's predictions are different. If we hadn't made this effort, his predictions would have come true, just like he said. We can see this idea in the Bible too. In the book of Jonah, for example, people change their ways after they're warned, and bad things don't happen to them. So while we wait for whatever might happen in the future, we should remember that no one knows exactly when things will happen. Even Jesus said that only God knows. Remember not to believe anyone who says they know when something will happen. Firstly, how close we are to Jesus' return depends on how you look at it. Jesus said he would return soon, but that was about 2,000 years ago. He hasn't returned yet, but that doesn't mean he won't. What we do know is that we are closer to the end now than when Jesus first said those words. He also gave us an idea of when he would come back. He said he would come back when everyone in the world has heard his message. Jesus also told us not to worry too much about when he will return. He said there would be wars and rumors of wars, but that doesn't mean the end is here yet. Finally, instead of worrying about when Jesus will return, we should focus on being close to him. Jesus said we should make every effort to be close to God. We should read the Bible, believe in it, have faith, pray, and be righteous. Whether you believe in psychic abilities and prophecies, 2024 will definitely be an interesting year for you and me. Do you think Edgar Cayce's predictions that haven't manifested yet will come true, seeing as most of his predictions have started happening? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this.